Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the December 15th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Catch my show on Facebook. Facebook Live, in fact. TuneIn Radio, YouTube, iHeart. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. That's where you can get Choose Views, short versions and long versions. Of course, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez, driving you home. It was nice hanging out with Patty the other day. And of course, it's not the big picture any longer. It's the democracy, stupid, with Edwin Eisendrath, as well as Out Chicago and our other great shows and interviews that we have on the station. You can also make your way over to heartlandsignal.com to check out all of our cool and great stuff that we have there. And what does that mean? Well, I'm just going to read off a few of them to you, maybe give you a little bit of opinion and commentary. We got everything there from Senator Tammy Duckworth from Illinois, grilling the Department of Defense Deputy General Counsel Charles Young about the National Guard troops. Eric Schmidt from Missouri defending ICE agents, saying that they're simply following orders from Congress, which is kind of interesting because the orders from ICE agents didn't actually come from Congress. They came from the White House. I'm not even going to say the president. They came from the White House. But there you go, Eric Schmidt. Kentucky Democratic Senate candidate Amy McGrath talks about the Trump administration not releasing the unedited, as we refer to it, some are referring to it as the double tap, which I've tried to stay away from. And we've got a clip that Devin and I put together that's going to add a little bit of question to this if it were just two attacks on fentanyl boats. Kentucky. So let's see. You heard the clip that I played last week from Representative Delia Ramirez, really putting the heat to Kristi Noem. And if you guys want that clip or those clips that I played of her, meaning Representative Ramirez, as well as Representative Dan Goldman and Representative Benny Thompson, just send me an email. I know a bunch of you asked me for it, and I hope I got it to everybody that requested it. So I'm going to put that out there again, because I know that those were really strong clips. Those were, as I said last Friday, that's the way that we want to see our Democratic elected officials on all levels, pressing back on members of this administration and other elected officials. So if you want those, hit me with an email at richard@wcpt820.com, and I will get them to you. But make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. We have a ton of great clips and audio and posts there that you guys can check out and take advantage of. That leads me to the quick favor from our listeners, especially the folks who help spread the good information. If you've shared something you heard on WCPT or read on heartlandsignal.com, maybe a clip, a story, or a moment that cut through the noise, we want to hear from you. We're building a network of people who help their community stay informed, and you might already be one of them. It only takes a couple of minutes, and if you fill out the survey, you can enter a drawing for one of 5 $25 Visa gift cards. Just go to heartlandsignal.com/share and tell us how you pass information along. Again, that's heartlandsignal.com/share. You're a big part of how trustworthy pro-democracy news actually travels, and we want to hear from you, so we say thanks to you in advance. The Choose Views featured interviews and full episodes podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn and iHeart, YouTube, and Amazon Music. Search for Choose Views or visit our podcast page at heartlandsignal.com/podcast. Get all the latest there. And obviously, you can pass those along as well and get people to subscribe and all that good stuff. So, make your way over. Heartland Signal is a cool place to hang out. At least I think so. It's good stuff there. Devin, how was your weekend, man? I opened up by asking you that question. How was your weekend?
I was here.
He was here. See, that's a committed dude. All of our folks here are wonderful engineers. I'm telling you, I hope you guys take me seriously when I say this, but we would not survive without them. They come in and they see stuff and think, oh my God, how do we fix this? How do we deal with that? But and that's true. That's real information I'm sharing with you guys. So whenever you call in to the station, when you ever call into any of the shows, I know you want to make your point about whatever it is that I might be talking about, or that Patty or that Joan or Edwin or anyone that's live is talking about. But take a moment and just thank our folks who are part of our team here, and give them just let them know how much you appreciate, because they're part of this as well. And this is what's interesting. All of our engineers, this is what's really kind of cool. I don't think I've ever said this before. All of our engineers are very progressive-minded, smart people. They're not just our engineers that technologically make things happen here so that we can broadcast. They are also very plugged in to what happens. They hear a lot, obviously, from us, but they also have drawn their own opinions, and they've been very helpful in us formulating thoughts and ideas around things. So, they're not just engineers, y'all. They're not. They're stealth. They're stealth, opinion havers. So, in any event, I hope everybody had a good weekend. The weather, how can I put this? The weather is cold. It's not chilly out. It's just flat out cold right now. And I know that a lot of people are out and about. So I'm going to say this. I say it during this time of year. Actually, I say it all throughout the course of the year. Please be safe, everybody. Give yourself a little extra time. I got to the car 5 minutes earlier this morning so I could get it started and get going. If you're taking public transportation, give yourself a little extra time. Move a little bit slower. Don't be rushing to the bus, right, Deb? Don't be rushing to the train or the Uber, whatever. And this is another one. This is you heard me talk about if you're stepping on and off of a platform or a curb, all those things, just be really careful. But this is the one that I really have to say to anybody and everybody. If you're here in Chicago or the upper Midwest or other parts of the country, and you're walking down the street and it's this cold out, put your phone away. There is no reason, unless it's an emergency from a family member, there's no reason for you to be on your phone walking down the street when it's this damn cold out. There isn't. If there is, then step over, find yourself a building to duck into, or find yourself an entryway to duck into, and make your call or send your text that you're running late or something other. But don't be walking down the street when it's this cold. All you need is to get startled and drop your phone. In this cold weather, what's it going to do, Devin, when it hits that pavement? Boom, it's going to crack. Or some other crazy thing could happen. So please, I am being Uncle Richard this morning. I'm always mindful of this because I know folks are out and about doing their thing, but just be careful. It's too damn cold to be on the phone. Plus, if you got your gloves on, Devin knows exactly what I'm about to say. You got your gloves on. You got the phone up to your ear. You may have a hat or a hoodie on or whatever you're wearing to stay warm. How are you even hearing the conversation? And I see people walking down the street with their phone tilted with it on speakerphone, walking like it's a plate of food or something, talking on speakerphone like this. Just put it away till you get where you got to go. But everybody give yourself a little extra time this morning and these mornings to come, because it's going to be cold through the course of the rest of this week, certainly here in Chicago and in the upper Midwest. So everybody, please, please, please just be safe. And with that said, check this out, progressives.
It's my understanding you also voted for President Trump.
Yes, sir.
Why did you vote for him?
Because I was an idiot.
Can you be more specific?
Because 80% of the evangelical Christian people were lied to, if you really want to know the truth, and that's exactly what happened. They said criminal, and I believe criminals need to be off the street.
I just want to make sure people watching this understand who you are.
Well,
and who Donna
criminals need
is.
to be off the street, and I agree with that.
They're not
That's
criminals.
what's sold. Correct. But if you watch the news channels even today, they're talking about all the heinous criminals that they're getting. And truth be told, there's been about 800 actual criminals that they've gotten off the street. The
Donna
rest of
is
them-
also the mother of a Marine,
Yes.
an active Marine in Okinawa today.
Yes, sir. We actually have his dogs.
Okay, so what was that all about? So this gentleman who, presents himself as an evangelical that voted for Trump says he was an idiot. Now, okay, I'm not going to disagree with him, but I'm not going to make him feel any worse for that self-designation. The person asking the questions was a representative from California's 46th district, Lou Correa. Okay. So he was having this conversation with this gentleman, and sitting along with him was Pastor Black, who was with us a few weeks ago. And essentially, this guy knows, that was talking and responding, that the immigration, the ICE raids and all the immigration activity have gone off the rails. And the 800 that he was talking about were not illegals here in Illinois. That was a little over 600. And about 15 to 18 of them were actually folks who had committed the types of crimes that this regime says that they were going after. The rest were people that they just, rounded up. So, if he wants to define himself that way, okay, that's fine. I don't know him, so I'm going to try not to. I know some of you have gotten after me for referring to MAGA as stupid, and I respect where you're coming from in that, so I try not to, but their actions certainly are. But that being said, more people have got to come to the understanding that what they did, whether it was stupid or whether it was ill-informed action, or if it were those actions or defined that way, I can understand that to some extent. But the ones that are really causing the harms are the ones that knew exactly what they were doing. And for those of you who don't think I get after them enough, let me tell you, those who knew, who said they knew what they were doing, knew exactly what they were doing. So we cannot give them any space. And through the course of the next few days, I'll be talking, we've got a great lineup of guests this week. Let me pull my quick list. Today, of course, on the show, Chris Swanson, who is running for governor in Michigan, will be with us on the 7 o'clock hour. And then Mike Nellis, political strategist, will be with us in the 7:30 hour. Tomorrow, Deb Horry will be with us. North Carolina State Representative Rodney Pierce, Liz Pancotti. On Wednesday, Professor Robert Pape, Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63, Mayor Nancy Rotering. On Thursday, Robin Kelly, Congresswoman Robin Kelly will be with us. Jen Walling. On Friday, Pastor James Gilliard, Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast, and John Bartman. So, busy week. Be prepared to tune in. Call in with your questions. Send me your text messages. We'll try to get to them. But right now, let's take a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. You are listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. Yes, I am Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being with us this morning. If you haven't already, you can follow Heartland Signal on X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at heartlandsignal.com. And be sure to check heartlandsignal.com for daily updates, as I always say. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be talking to James Stroud, a statistician at FEMA, who has gone public with his opposition to the Trump administration's wide-ranging effort to obstruct FEMA's work. Chris Berry, senior journalist in residence at DePaul University. That's Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5, here on WCPT AM 820, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. And then tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by Dr. Shika Jain, a board-certified hematology and oncology physician and associate professor of medicine at the University of Illinois Cancer Center. Brad Vartan, vice president of Foundation and Philanthropy at the Humboldt Park Health Foundation. Golly. You know, we practice these things and then you still can't get it right. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Central, WCPT, AM 820, and the Heartland Signal website. Also, tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. Tuesday, Deb Howery, as I said, former chief medical officer for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, who resigned, if you guys recall, back in late August. Can't wait to talk with her. North Carolina State Representative Rodney Pierce and Liz Pancotti, Managing Director of Policy and Advocacy at Groundwork Collective, an economic think tank based in Washington, D.C. So we got a busy week, as always. Excited for Joan and her conversation with James Stroud, and of course, Patty having her conversation with Brad Vartan talking about the Humboldt Park Health Foundation. So there you go. And I appreciate you guys when you give us the shout outs about our signal. I guess we are pumping it out well overnight. So there you go. Good stuff. All right, kind of circling back to something I said earlier that I would chat a little bit about. We've had a number of people who over the years have, I guess you could say they've gone back and forth on what is their reasons for voting the way that they voted. And you know, I read a lot. I look at a lot of different things on social media and of course on the internet at large, because I want to try to get as much information as I can as to why people say they do the things that they do when it comes to this political landscape that we're in. And one of the things that just doesn't go away, as much as people try to make it about something other than what it actually has been about for years, is there's a couple of consistent things that people say are the reasons that they vote the way that they do. One of them is, you know, the economy or affordability of things, the cost of living, cost of goods, money, you know, those employment, all those things that tie into a sustained way of life. And I don't disagree, or I'm not going to tell somebody that that's not truthful for millions of Americans, because we all are folks that want to survive and have our lives go forward in a positive way, and the people that we care about, we want the same for them. However, one of the things that comes back all the time is this conversation around the others. And the reason I position it this way is this clip that we played a moment ago, that the guy said that it was, you know, he was an idiot for voting for Trump, and, you know, he believed that it was going to be about, in his mind, taking care of illegals or illegal activity. Ultimately, that focus is on people that don't look like those who say they want to get rid of the illegals. I rarely see a person that posts something on social media or any place on the internet at large that when they talk about getting rid of the illegals, which to me there's no such thing as, but I know that people like to define it as such, and it's a nice political, you know, stick to beat somebody with in the proverbial sense. What I never really see are posts from people who don't look like the people that they say that they want to say are the criminals. So in other words, I don't see a lot of posts of people who are from European countries that are the ones that Trump says he wants to see more people come from. You know, the Denmarks, the Norways, the Icelands, and, you know, the other sort of Central Europe countries, even some of the countries that are part of or the old Soviet Union. I don't see, when we talk about this in this conversation about how people actually vote and why, I don't see a lot of posts on social media from people that are saying, yeah, let's go get those people. Let's be standing at the immigration offices that are more have more folks coming in from European countries, and ICE or any news media, news outlets, or frustrated white Americans standing there going, let's get those people. Don't see that. And here's a good example. I don't see a lot of ICE agents or vitriol coming from people who say that the reason they voted the way they voted was because of the economy. I don't see those people at the northern border. See, we have more than one border. We always say the border like it's only one. We have more than one border. So I don't see a lot of that anger and frustration and pushback at the Canadian border. And I can tell you that from real life examples or experience, because back in October, my wife and I spent a little over a week in Canada. I didn't see any any of the craziness that's happening at our southern border happening that way. And people cross the border in Canada. People cross the border, from Mexico to the United States. But you don't see the same direction of energy and anger toward, we have to go get those illegals. And if anybody is, to use this gentleman's phrase, idiotic enough to think that people don't come here illegally or have stayed here beyond their allowed period of time, that came here, quote, came here illegally, if you will, that didn't come from the southern border, for example, that came across the northern border or came from one of our port cities across the country, or around the country, I should say, then you're being as blinded as the gentleman who was in that clip. And to think that, let's just say that the only people that are committing illegal activities once they get here are people that come from the southern border. Wow. That's to say that the business owners that are from parts of Europe and that are from parts of Russia and from other former Soviet Union countries that are here that have been defined as criminals because of their activities once they've gotten here, that would say that they've done nothing wrong and that they don't deserve to be deported or deserve to be brought to under scrutiny to look at their behavior. And so I'm by design, I'm not being delicate. I'm by design. I'm tiptoeing around it to have some fun with it. The point of it is, people voted in this last election and in the national election, and they convinced themselves and twisted themselves into knots to get you to think, or to get others to think, that they voted because it was just about pocketbook, kitchen table items. And to a great measure, a lot of the folks in the corporate media spent a lot of time getting people to think that it was all about, and it was only about, the economy. And if that were the case, because I know that, we could use Edwin Eisendrath's show title as a good example. It's the democracy, stupid. One could say, to kind of parallel off of that, it's the economy, stupid. Well, in my mind, it's not really about the economy. Never really has been. It's really been about the others. It's about the others not being able to be here and be here comfortably. And when I hear a clip, again, like this gentleman was a part of, I think about it and say, there was nothing in what he said in that short clip about the economy. It was all about getting rid of the illegals. But when we have that conversation and the folks are really honest, Anybody that came here illegally needs to be dealt with. But that doesn't just that the people that have come here. So the question is not so much who's come here illegally, because you can't really come here illegally. You came in, you got here. We did our best to process you in a way that would make you legal. But now to go after the people that are not here illegally, if you will, is flat out wrong by our country's federal government. The people who are trying to get legal, we have to provide a space for them to get legal. You don't if you came across the border and you didn't do it in a legal way, then you have to be dealt with. But that doesn't mean that you get dealt with in a way that's to be mistreated, because there are a lot of people that are here illegally because they've overstayed their legal way of being here. But we're not putting energy toward removing them. So for those who want to run around and say we need to get rid of the people that came here illegally, how about the people that are here without the correct documentation that they should have? And look at the numbers, look at the data. Those people, 80%, almost 80% of those folks don't look like the folks that are coming across the southern border. So for those who want to have their vitriolic keyboard warrior moments about we need to get rid of those who came here illegally, we need to take care of the people who are not here legally, just with the same as much with as much energy and vitriol, in my observation. And it's a big conversation. We're having it. We're going to have it. And, you know, we'll keep talking about it, because I believe a lot of people have fooled themselves, twisted themselves into knots. And like this guy said, I'm an idiot. He said it, not me. We will take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I like to get folks riled up who I know will take the bait, and some already have. All right. Sad moment. Listen, I position these things where I hope folks can understand. Rob Reiner and his wife were found dead, and as it seems that it's come out that they were killed by their son, which is sad, awful, all the words that we can use to describe that. But let us not forget, when we talk about people that died, I think sometimes we have to be mindful in how we engage in that conversation. There are also some students who were shot and killed at Brown University, and their lives are just as important as Rob Reiner and his late Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. So let us not forget that in the conversation. And when I think about these things, I go, okay, we die. All of us die. We all have meaning and import. So the children who passed away as a result of this shooting, as is the case with any of the school shootings, their lives are just as important as Rob Reiner's or anybody else's. And I understand that we get caught up in the naming, the names of people and, all the things that they've done. And Rob Reiner was a great director, no questions about it. Great movies, great work, great actor. You think about, the Archie Bunker days and all that from All in the Family. But let us, as we talk about Rob Reiner's death and his wife Michelle, late Rob Reiner and late Michelle, we also have to remember those students, because without that, we can't. We don't do that as progressives when we talk about how strong and embracing and big tent we are. We forget about that. It's easy to do. I understand it, but at the same time, we have to be mindful of the other folks that died as a result of violence and tragedies that fell upon them. And what made me think about that is I saw a post from a father whose daughter was killed at Brown University. And it struck me that, okay, that pain for him is just as painful as it is for the Reiner family and all the rest. Different, but it's the same. Different occurrence, different, proximity, but just as painful for those who lost. So be mindful of that, y'all. Let's go to our good friend, Karen Byrne. Hey, good morning, Karen. How are you? Welcome. Monday morning.
Hey, listen, I'm hanging in. I mean, yes, and that is true. And you know what? Who would agree with that statement? Richard, would be Rob and Michelle Reiner. They would 100%. There was also a violent and terroristic attack on the Jewish community in Australia yesterday. Yep. And yes, all lives, have value. And you're right. I mean, the celebrity tends to take over. The front page. And we can, if we want to talk about these things, let's talk about the guns. Let's talk about, the substance abuse issue epidemic in America. Let's talk about all that. Let's have those conversations because, those are absolutely needed.
And Rob Reiner would have been a voice that would have, and not would have, but did speak to all of those things. So I don't want to demean or misdirect the thoughts about him, he and his wife dying. I'm just saying that we have to, all have to do is embrace that there is too much violence. There is too much anger. There's too much abuse.
Tragedy.
In all capacities and facets of life. So I think that's what our opportunity is as progressive liberal Democrats, is to address all of those ills as part of our big tent. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And we have to, and I think that we're all feeling a certain kind of way, and it's heightened because of the trauma that this country is going through at the hands of this fascist regime led by Donald Trump and Peter Thiel and Stephen Miller and, all of the horrible people that have infiltrated our government and our democracy. It's hard. It's hard. It's just everybody is all over the place in their feelings this morning.
I go back to
the family.
I go back to a conversation. I've shared this before. My brother-in-law, this is back in April 2016. I was hanging out with my sister and brother-in-law in Washington, D.C., and we were down at the Cherry Blossom Festival. And he and I were talking. We were standing there along the water, and we were talking about what a Trump administration would look like. This was during the primaries. And I've talked about this before, so I'll just cut to the chase. What he said and what I agreed with is his fear was how much anger and how much craziness was going to be unearthed, and if we were to go down this path, and how many people would be just willing to with any control, start doing crazy stuff. And that's where we've been the last 9 going on 10 years now. And my brother-in-law was spot on with what he said. So yes, we are at that point because, it's been there, Karen. We know this. It's been there all of our lifetime before Trump hit the political scene. But it has been. It's documented that violence in America has heightened. Violence across the globe has heightened, y'all, since Donald Trump became president the first time.
And the worst part about it is we don't have steady leadership, responsible leadership that's going to quell the anxiety that people are feeling. We don't have that. We don't, usually the president will come out and say some, calming and words of comfort to the nation, and we don't have that. We can't trust a thing that's coming out of this administration, including the fact that apparently Kash Patel, old squirrely eyes, FBI, brought in the wrong guy for the shooting. Yeah. So
I hope that Donald keeps his mouth shut on. We always say this, but it never really happens. But unfortunately, we know that he's going to find a way to say something stupid about the deaths that have taken place, both with the shooting in Australia, Brown University, and now Rob Reiner with the deaths there. He will find his way to say something stupid and inappropriate rather than supportive and embracing. And that's the part right now that I don't have any expectations. I already know what he's going to do. It'll just be a question of when he does it and where he does it from. That is where we are.
Yep. So I will be looking to President Obama and President Biden for their kind, and Gavin Newsom and J.B. Pritzker for their words of comfort. Yeah. And that's what we all have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I think, Karen, I think what happens sometimes, let me just make sure I say this so people understand. I think what happens when someone of celebrity or sports or business or political nature dies, particularly when it's a tragic death of violence, I think what happens to most of us, and I'm going to speak for most of us in the most respectful way that I can, is we look at those people and we go, how did their life and what they did with their life impact us? And then when we sit back and we do that, we go, wow, that person, I've known that person or watched that person or followed that person or read for decades. And throughout courses of my life, they did X, and here's how it impacted me. And so we, by nature, we then go, that's why you have a certain feeling about that person, even though you may have never met them. So I get it. They feel like a friend. They feel like a familiar. That's what it is. So that's what happens. I don't want anybody to think I'm not saying any bit of sadness about Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner. I'm not. I'm saying that we all we have touchstones with people in our lives. And when they are of a nature where we've seen them in public, whether they be in business or in politics or sports or whatever the case may have been, we are drawn to that. That's kind of how we've socialized over these hundreds and hundreds of years. So nobody take what I said the wrong way. I am saying the bigger picture. I think you said it. I think your meaning was very clear. To me at least, I heard it as exactly what you meant it as. That yes, and yes, it is a tragedy. It is a tragedy that Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner have met this kind of an end. It is horrible. It's horrific. No family should ever have to go through that. But at the same time, yes, you are right that there were 15 souls in Australia, I believe the count is, that met tragic ends, and their loved ones are, so the lives are equal. And again, Rob Reiner and Michelle would absolutely agree with what you said. I'm sure of it. They were two people that were so on the front lines of doing, progressing and doing the right things for people. And, they were total mensches,
And it's sad. It is sad, and we should grieve it. We should also, and I know that our audience, your audience, grieve for the losses of all the lives. I do want to say something too. You were speaking about immigration, if I can, just a couple of minutes here. I think that we fall into this trap and pick up on right-wing talking points and terms and references. Nobody is illegal, and I know you know this. Nobody is illegal. People come here for asylum, many different reasons. Asylum. Many people come here, and because our immigration system is so broken and so dysfunctional, because the Republican Party primarily will not do anything to expand the system by way of hiring more attorneys and judges to be able to process people more efficiently. And, if they're need to be deported, they're deported. And if they are, staying here, going through the process, it takes many, many years, as long as a decade. People, when they are here undocumented, even then, they have equated that on the right with criminality. It is a misdemeanor. And these people are not criminals, just in and of this sense that they are here undocumented. And when you have these ICE goons showing up at swearing-in ceremonies where people are about to get their citizenship, when they're showing up at courthouses and taking people that are going through the process or have just received their green cards, that is not going after criminals. That is going after people who belong here, who pay taxes, who contribute to our economy and to our communities. And so that is something that we need to be very clear when we talk about this. They are not illegal. There's nobody here that is an illegal. They're here undocumented.
I think what happens, Karen, is, and let me also be clear, illegals and let me say it this way. As I'm referencing people that are deemed as illegals, that's language that is coming from not only the right, but it's coming from ill-informed people on the left. Yeah. And so we have to be willing to call that out when the descriptions are out there about human beings. These are people that may be here illegally based on the tracking system that we use and the way in which we get people processed through this long, unnecessary program. There could be the legal definition of are they here legally or illegally, if you will. One could argue that's an appropriate way to talk about it, but they're not illegals. They're people that are here without the proper, to your point, documentation. And the overlay of that, this is where what happens with so much of this conversation is that the point I was making earlier, and I intentionally danced around it because I wanted to do that, is that the people who are defined as the illegals, they look like they are brown-skinned people.
They're brown.
They're not coming. They're not the persons that are here illegally because they've overstayed their documented tool, if you will. They are not, and the numbers are close to 80% of those people don't get the label, and that's the point that maybe I should have made more quickly. They don't get the label of being here illegally, or I'm sorry, being illegals. They get the the softer version. They've outstayed their passport or their green card. It's always the soft language for those who are from white European countries. People that come and they come across the border from the southern border get the label of illegals. And even when the point I was making, and someone tried to call me out on this on a tweet, a clip earlier. The point I was also making is that people who do get deported from those European countries, they don't get the media doesn't present them to us as the illegals, and it's a subtle thing, but it's a very overt thing.
Subtle. But it's not even so subtle. I mean, the media just kind of buys into it. But Donald Trump is setting the narrative. He's framing the whole situation. And you're right to differentiate between the southern and the northern border. It's right for us to differentiate in how they speak about brown people coming here, black people coming here, versus white Europeans. And by the way, he keeps fixating on the Scandinavian countries, and we need more of those people or whatever. They don't want to come to this as. Excuse me. Let me say this. They don't want to come to this asshole country. They get universal health care. They get their basic needs met in those countries. There's no reason for them to come here.
And they're shooting.
We're lining the pockets of these corporate billionaires.
Hey, Karen, and guess what? Guess what else that they're not going to come here to expose themselves to? Gun violence.
Thank you. Exactly
violence.
Right.
I mean, when was there time? When was the last time there was a shooting at a college anywhere? I mean, this Australia situation is such an out of the box situation. However, let's go across the globe and ask ourselves, how many other of the top 10 countries population-wise have had the kind of shootings that we've had just this year? And
exactly.
So why would the people in those countries decide, oh, yeah, this is the right time to go
go there.
Yeah, and put my children in school and have a health care issue with them and all the rest? No. Not unless they agree. Not unless they agree with the white supremacists in this country. That's right.
And the right wing and the Gestapo. Yeah.
Let's snatch your phones as you're coming in and see what you posted. If there's been anything that we don't like about what you said about Donald Trump, you can't come in. Okay,
exactly.
We won't come in then.
Yeah.
See, guys.
Hey, look at this.
Karen and I just chopped it up.
Yeah, and it's not even 7 a.m., people.
Oh, my goodness.
It's crazy. Anyway, thanks for taking my call and letting me go on and on and on. I appreciate it.
Sometimes we do that so we can get it out and start the conversation and get other people drawn into the conversation. So kudos to you, Karen, for the call. Be safe today, okay?
Thank you. All right. Stay warm, everybody. Stay warm, Richard and Devin. Love you guys. Okay.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, my God. She is a mess. But I mean that in the best of ways. Thanks, Karen, for giving us a holler this morning. Immigration. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop right there. Because there is something that I do want to get to that we kind of touched on, or I touched on earlier. And it is this conversation around this boat incident. I guess I'll call it a boat incident. We have this clip that is the Republicans speaking the truth accidentally about what took place with this Venezuelan vote situation, the quote-unquote double tap. Let's go to the clip from Tom Cotton, Devin.
We're about to see the face of a man that's about to say something that he absolutely shouldn't have.
The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were...
And in that moment, he knew he f***ed up.
Entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we would expect our military commanders to do.
Because last time we all checked, and the last thing they was telling us were, there were only 2 strikes. Now we went from 3 to 4.
The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike.
And the reason why I wouldn't be surprised if this is true is because he just walked out of that meeting. He had absolutely no time for PR practice. And not only that, it is a common thing for the government not to tell us the full truth. Not be shocked when you start hearing more reports come out that it is actually worse than what we was already told.
I saw 2 survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down to the United States, back over, so they could stay in the fight. The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were...
That was not AI. Just because there was some music playing in the background, this young man posted this, Bernard News Now. But here's the thing. As we're talking about, immigration, as we're talking about the use of American power, And then you hear Tom Cotton, who is a in-the-tank MAGA GOP, uber ultra conservative. He said the truth. And if you see the video, if you guys want it, I'll send it to you. Just send me an email. But when you see the video, you can see he had that oops moment. And this gentleman who put this video together made it clear. He had just come out of the meeting, but he had that oops moment. So that's where I'd like to see the folks in the newsroom, the folks in the press, the press corps, or whatever, asking the question, what, to Caroline Lovett. So Caroline, I have a question for you. Or should we call you Piggy? But anyhow, I mean, it's fair now. The president does it. I mean, everybody else on the right's leaning to, if the president does it, I can do it. So, okay. So, Caroline, a.k.a. Piggy, let me ask you this question. What are your thoughts about one of your Republican senators saying, after seeing the video, that there wasn't only a first and second, but there was also a third and fourth strike? And wouldn't it be nice if we had a remote control on her cross, like a heat sensor, that if she lies, the cross starts to light up and get hot? And I could walk into there, me and Devin and some others could be in that press room, and when she starts to lie, we could press a remote and the cross would heat up. Wouldn't that be great? And same thing would happen to Pam Bondi at the same, a similar time, and Kristi Noem. Wouldn't that be great? And frankly, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We can have like remote control crosses so that when they start to lie or spread mistruths, that we could press a remote and light up those crosses. But Senator Tom Cotton did say that there was a third and a fourth strike. So the question then becomes, like the Epstein files, when are we going to see this stuff, y'all? Where are the files? Where are the videos? Where are the tapes? We want to see them. And to say that they are, it's private information, it's privy and secured and all that, is just a bunch of BS. It just is. Tom Cotton spoke the truth accidentally. Yet, the media, specifically corporate media, isn't talking about that. They're not talking about it because they know that the Republicans got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. And because of that, you'll probably see this get swept under the rug. I actually will be shocked if it becomes a conversation from the corporate media. Like, why aren't they banging on his door going, Tom Cotton, Senator Cotton, what were you talking about when you said that there was a third and a fourth strike? Ask everybody that was in that room. So I guess some people might be saying, well, Richard, what about the Democrats who saw it too? Why aren't they speaking? Bring them up too. Don't get me wrong, and don't get it twisted. If the Democrats were in that meeting and they saw a third and fourth strike, then they need to be talking about it as well. So for those who want to say, well, you're only picking on the Republicans, I'm not going to pick on anybody. I'm going to talk about what they're doing or not doing as I see it. But in this particular case, if the Republicans saw it and the Democrats saw it, then they all need to be talking about it. So he's the one that, kind of spoke the truth accidentally. But the others are out that may know about it. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? So we're going to take a break, guys. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, 1520 AM WARR 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Thanks for being with us this morning. Yeah, you know, one of the big challenges with how we communicate is how we communicate, what we say and how we say it, what words are used, and in what at what moment we use certain words. So we constantly are working to say things better and say things the right way. So I appreciate when you guys either text me or call or email me about, hey, Richard, don't get sloppy with what you say or how you say it. I get it. And we work really hard to. So I want you guys to understand that I get it when you send me certain things to say, hey, what about this? What about that? So just FYI. There's lots of races that are taking place throughout the country right now and will be through the midterms and beyond. And the one thing that I think is really critically important, one of the things I should say, not the one thing, but one of the many things that I think is really important is that we pay attention to all of them. If there's, as I've said so many times, and we'll say again, a thing that we can do better, and that is to make sure that the local races, the state races, and the governor's races and all the rest are ones that we're paying close attention to, and that if we want to see change, we've got to get involved. One of our neighboring states, the great state of Michigan, the big blue state, if you will, has a governor's race that is taking place and some great folks that are running. And I'll say this as respectfully as I can. We'll miss Governor Gretchen Whitmer, but we know that, her time on the job has been great, and she's done so many wonderful things for the state of Michigan. With us this morning is yet one of the other phenomenal people who has served the state of Michigan for a number of years now and decided to throw his hat in the ring. And literally, he's got a big hat to throw in. And that is the Sheriff Chris Swanson of Genesee County, Michigan, who's running for governor of the state of Michigan. Good morning, Sheriff Swanson, and welcome to Choose Views on WCPT.
Good morning, my brother, and all of Chicago and around the world.
Did you throw that sheriff's hat in the ring and to really make a statement?
Man, I think people trust the sheriffs, and it's what you just said. I was listening to your show before you even got on about how to message and what you said to your listeners, like, hey, sometimes I don't get it right. That's exactly what makes me different. Is sometimes I listen to perspective more than just my perception, because that's what leadership is, man. So being a sheriff is great prep for what I'm going to do as governor.
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time. I've got a mop bucket and a mop that I keep right next to me, Sheriff Swanson, as I refer to it as cleanup on aisle 7, because I know I'm going to step in it. And the fact that I know I'm going to step in it allows me to remain humble. And even when some of my closest folks say, hey, you probably should have said it or considered saying it this way, I get it. And so, but the beauty of it is having people around you that you trust enough that are going to say that and that you're going to be able to listen to. And I think that one of the things that I've learned about you in the short period of time is that you've done a really good job as sheriff of listening to the people in your community and what's really troubling them, and then trying to respond to it. And I remember back in 2020 when some stuff was going down that you weren't real cool with, and you decided that the citizens were more right than the opposition. You know what I'm talking about. So share with us that video that kind of went viral, if you will, for a moment.
Well, you're right, man. Those closest to the problem will have the answer. Just ask them. And when George Floyd was murdered by somebody who looked like me, a white police officer who, I've been given 33 years of my life to law enforcement and to helping people in a big, big county with, post-water crisis in Flint and poverty and crime and a lot of the challenges, Chicago deals with. And when I saw that video, and when your listeners can go back to 2020, remember where they were when they saw a guy standing on the back of George Floyd's neck as he was begging for his mother, and other police officers were watching this go down. Like, that is not who we are. And that lit a fuse around the country. And for the sake of time, we saw this built up, and then all of a sudden May 30th hit. We had a protest scheduled in Flint on May 30th. And as it started at 5 and escalated to 7:30, we were outnumbered, and we were outnumbered 50-1. And there was a moment as a sheriff, I thought, man, there's going to be bloodshed. Hands down, there's going to be bloodshed. And I thought, there's got to be a better way. And I took my helmet off and I broke the line. And as the sheriff of the county, I don't have, I don't have a crew that and nor do I want somebody to go give me the majority vote of what the right thing to do is. You lead with your heart. And I walked in, I said, that guy is not who we are. I said, these cops over here are here to help you. And I said that the number one question of my life, I said, what do you need us to do? And I'm telling you, Richard, they started chanting, walk with us, walk with us. And immediately, hate turned to hope. I said, let's walk. Let's walk. We'll walk all night. And we started walking, man. I saw that there's much more that unites us than divides us. I couldn't bring George Floyd back from the dead. Solve race relations at that moment, but they saw my heart. We led back to the Target parking lot. Nobody got arrested that whole summer. Nobody got injured. No businesses burned, and we built on top of that, which is one of the main reasons me running for governor is to restore faith in what people think is broken.
It is broken. I mean, and I'll say this because a lot of people know that this is how I think, so I can't let this skip by. What we are right now is who we are. What we're doing is who we are until we have people like you that are willing to step into the middle of the fray and say, this may not be who we are or who I want us to be, right, but in this moment that the people that are on the ground are feeling that this is who we are as a country. Right. And there's so many avenues that this runs down. Immigration right now. This is a big one. I was talking about this earlier and trying to keep myself from using the word illegals because I was making a point about the way in which we view this. But this is who we are, Sheriff Swanson, and it's going to take folks that are going to be willing to step across the line, if you will, and say, if we're going to have the safety, the economic safety, the health safety, the employment safety, the neighborhood safety that we talk about, then it's going to take people crossing the line to say some of the things that we've done over the years just aren't right. And they've been
1,000%.
You know what I mean? And so talk a little bit about that as you look at your future possibility of being governor of the state of Michigan.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, everything I'm telling you is not because I want to get a political point. I mean, this is who Chris is. And let me tell you, when you talk about doing something different, I'll take you back even before George Floyd. When I was coming through the ranks, I started as a deputy, ran all the way through the sheriff. And the whole George Floyd thing, I wasn't even elected sheriff yet. I was appointed to take the last year of my predecessor. And I knew that I was going to get the spot. So a year before that, I'm thinking, I'm seeing 3 generations come through the jail. This is stupid. We've been doing the same thing since 1836. And everybody listening, know and remember, either they themselves or somebody they love fought with addiction and homelessness and making bad decisions, but we've all been given a second chance. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to change the way we think about jail from incarceration to education. So we're going to build out an education model in the jail. We're going to call it Ignite Inmate Growth Naturally and Intelligence through Education. We're going to go into the jails. We're going to teach, GED, diploma, Barber College, financial literacy, 5,000 other courses to get people up on their feet. And then when they get out of jail, because 9 out of 10 people in jails in America go back to the street, only 10% go to prison. We've given them an opportunity to get on their feet and never come back because they're not breaking the law. We started that September 8, 2020. And Richard, I'm telling you, the first 90 days, jail violence went down 97%. That first 6 months, I scaled it out. We built it. The first county to duplicate it, because I made sure that we could franchise this at no cost to any county throughout the country, was Hennepin County, Minnesota, which is Minneapolis. Now it's been validated by Harvard, Brown, and Michigan. It's been studied. I went with Jelly Roll to Oxford University to speak to 82 countries on literacy. It's in 15 states, 40 sites throughout the country, just building education on how we do things different. Dopamine releases when you celebrate graduations and you give people the opportunity to see there's a different pathway. We have changed lives, put over 200 people in jobs right out of the jail, bro. We've broken addictions. We've had, I know I'm going, a short time, but I had a daughter, father graduate in the jail. And then the father got out. The father came back to see his daughter graduate on a second graduation. She got out. Now they're both working in the jail for New Paths, treating people that they used to house with. Are you kidding me?
Listen, the enthusiasm and the excitement from you about what you've done and what you're looking to do as a potential future governor of the state of Michigan is intentionally and rightfully infectious. And I think that right now so many people throughout not just the state of Michigan, but throughout the country want to be motivated again to be part of the process. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we are speaking with Sheriff Chris Swanson of Genesee County, Michigan, who's running for governor in the great state of Michigan. So, Sheriff, let me ask you this question. All right. Yeah. When I mentioned enthusiasm and excitement, and I know that you're running for governor in Michigan, but right now everything local politically is national, and everything national is local. And I think that we have to, as folks on the Democratic side of this conversation, have to connect those dots. We have got to run up and down the ticket, so left and right, up and down. We got to cover the whole spectrum. And what you just said about recidivism dropping and improving community relationships through law enforcement and making sure that education is a big part of the incarceration, world, is a national conversation. It's not just something that's that works in Michigan. You've proven that, and the program has proven that. But I want to ask you, what do you feel right now is the thing we've got to do to excite more people to get involved in the quote-unquote political, social process in the country, not just in Michigan, but throughout the country?
So I want you and your listeners to hear what I'm about to say. Moments that create momentum create the movement. And that's what I'm about. And I say that because my enthusiasm is a decision. It's a choice that I make every day. Don't think that I am naive to the pain of people and the brokenness. I have had 33 years of death and violence. And I choose to be optimistic. I choose to say, hey, I know it's bad, but this is the path we can take, and this is how you're going to get better. I think it's important to know I became a paramedic when I was 20. And so and I'm still a medic. And so when I would sit across somebody who's dying in front of me, they're looking at me in my eyes. I'm the last face that they see, hoping that I can save their life. That's where we're at right now. People are exhausted. They're fatigued. I've been on faculty at the University of Michigan for 28 years teaching students. I've seen the change in even the student population. They're looking at, after I get out of here, where do I go next? I'm telling you, Richard, that's why this transition from sheriff of a big county to a great state makes the most sense, because I'm looking for somebody like me. I wake up every day, like many of your listeners, and they wonder what's next. I was listening to the shooting clip reference the Hanukkah celebration, and Genesee County is where we had the LDS shooting back on the 20th of September. Yep. Another, attack on religion. And tonight I'll be standing with a rabbi and my prosecutor is Jewish on a 30-foot ladder lighting the menorah, and now we have to take an extra step of caution. I understand that is painful for people. I understand that we have all these different things that cause us division. But if we don't choose leaders that have the heart to lead, even if they have to walk alone, then you're going to have people wondering, is there any hope? And I'm telling you there is. I saw in George Floyd hope out of hate. I saw educating inmates that can break the chains of incarceration that's been there since 1836. I mean, you put a team together, the people that I looked for in the past, the guy who was just the captain on the Booker T. Washington boat, this guy led in World War II. I just saw, I was listening to Veterans Moment. He was a moment that created momentum, that created a movement, and you highlighted him all these years later. So I think there's a sense of optimism when it comes to my campaign where, yes, there's a lot to be done, but we're going to take it one step at a time. Get me in there and watch what happens, because I know what we've been able to do in Genesee County that has literally reached the world.
Yeah, and that's the power. That I didn't ask you that question by accident, because I've read about you, and I love the passion and the intensity and the excitement. I think people – I've always been of this mindset, Sheriff Swanson, that some people don't need to be motivated, but when they are forced to be reckoned with.
Right.
And I think right now in our country, I mean, I go back to this national conversation. 89 million voters did not vote in the last the national election 2024. That's a big number of people that did not feel something to be able to get out and be a part of the process. And we could go up and down the reasons why. And I've said as a part of this conversation, why would someone need a reason to? And I get the reasons. I asked that question not so much rhetorically, but I think at this moment, people want to be part of the process. They want to. Right. I'm feeling this, and my passion is people want to be part of something. They're tired of being left alone on the sidelines. They want to be able to contribute. So one of the things that I try to do, Sheriff Swanson, is inspire people to get involved with local activities. Find something that you are, whether you're passionate about it or not, but it's something that you just see that you could lean into and bring some energy to. And that's one of the things that I try to do with the show is take the local stuff, make it part of the regional and the national conversation and vice versa. So help our listeners, the voters in the state of Michigan, but also people around the country that follow us, help them understand what your thoughts are about local issues, about local politics, and how you feel that that's part of what we can recapture. And as we do that, we recapture some of our humanity in this country.
Well, number one, you have to be part of the system. I mean, I look at it as, when you're baking a cake, one little ingredient can change the entire taste. So don't think that your little ingredient doesn't make a difference. Because if you add that and you 10x it, 100x it, now we have no voice. And no one can argue that federal decisions truly impact local people like your listeners and me. So that whole process from the United States down to the state level to the county to the city, the people and families every day, all day. So you got to be a part of that. And if people want to be a part of that, you've got to get them a reason to be a part of that. And I know that we're in a time, and I'm saying this because it's ironic that I'm talking to you in Chicago. I remember watching Barack Obama speak in 2004. What he's done for your state and what he's done for the country. 20 years later, 2024, I'm on the stage at the DNC in Chicago, and I just reviewed his book because I just consumed it when it came out. And I remember when he was chosen, and he went to go see Ted Kennedy, and there's a line in there from Ted Kennedy that says, "Brock, you don't choose time chooses you." Now is the time for all of us, the Democratic Party and people who want things different. I'm running as a Dem, but I love everybody. And I don't love people just because I want to say that. I love people because I genuinely seen so much hate and violence. There's got to be a counter to it. And I know that people are going to agree with me. I know people aren't going to like me. Shoot, you got to be willing to take the shots in the chest from your enemies and the knives from your friends in the back. But that's what you got to get is you yourself have to say, you know what? I may live in Butte, Montana, but I'm listening to Choose Views. I'm voting for the very first time because we come together. There's power in the masses. That's what democracy stands for.
Yep, it is. And that I know that a lot of people have been disenfranchised. They've been put in that situation. They've fallen into it, whatever the case may be. How they're there is how they're there. What our responsibility is to be that spotlight, that blaze trail that they can find that gets them back into the mix, gets them back into the game and participating and recognizing that they have something to do. They have the ability to fix the problems that we have. And I unapologetically lean to the left as a Democrat and a progressive, and I don't shy away from that. But I also recognize that when we really do work hard to embrace as many people as possible into the conversation, we all win. Because at the end of the day, I want us to all win. And some people, unfortunately, run around with their parachute open, and they slow us down. But we've got to find ways to bring them into the conversation. Let me ask you this. Michigan, great state. Love Michigan, have always been. I grew up in Michigan as much as Chicago's home. But one of the things that I want to know, based on you running for governor, is this. What are some of the things that are happening in Michigan that are happening well? We could talk about the negative stuff. We know the bad stuff is out there. We know that. What are some of the things that the state is doing well, and you want to leverage that as you go forward if you were to become governor?
Well, number one, Michigan has done well being a a light across the country. It's not even just a battleground state anymore. It's a state that the whole country watches. So the spotlight's on us, and we've done it well by saying to people across the country that Michigan can impact federal politics. We can put people in leadership, just like you said about Governor Whitmer. She's a friend. I talked to her. She's termed out. The things that we have naturally, Great Lakes, we share with you.
Yep.
We have land. The area that we're in, the automotive industry, with Sean Fain, a dear friend of mine, standing up for labor, the fact that we're coalescing groups together. I mean, there's a lot that Michigan has that has been there no matter who the governor is, and there's a lot that Michigan can have, but it depends on who the governor is. And so I think that if we continue to build this powerhouse of what unity looks like, you know, and I just 2 days ago, we had our National Day of Unity. Me and another guy started an organization called Us United, and you can go on the calendar. The second Saturday of December is the National Day of Unity. We did a huge event by giving away all these things in Genesee County, up to $50,000, $60,000 worth of product. I say that because there's a lot of good local, county, state leaders in both parties. Michigan has something to offer that people can look at. And that's what I'm looking forward to, man, is putting somebody in there like me who can bring people together even more. And then all of a sudden people are buying our T-shirts because we're making things happen. We're solving complex problems. I mean, we can make order out of chaos because I've been doing it my whole career. I love this state. I absolutely love it.
Michigan is a threshold state for the nation. It's helped to build the nation. It's helped to build the world, in my opinion. And that's one of the reasons that I've always loved Michigan. I mean, I'm a big believer and a part of Michigan for most of my life because of growing up there and all the cool things that Michigan represents. So I'm excited for you.
You talk about that, brother. I got to give a shout out to Flint, man. That's the home of General Motors. Billy Durant and C.S. Mott, the biggest funder. That's where the automobile started, from General Motors, right in Flint. The red bricks. I mean, you talk about the working class and labor. You are spot on, man. That's where I mean, no offense to the Bears, you guys are number one in the NFC, but that's where the grit comes back from Detroit Lions, with Dan Campball. And
I get in trouble sometimes. Listen, when I talk about football, I don't talk about football too often, but I get in trouble every now and again because two of my favorite running backs are former Chicago player and a former Detroit player, and I'm talking about Walter Payton and Barry Sanders. So
that's right.
I can't tell a lie. I love them both for different reasons.
Well, I can't say I don't love your coach now because he came from Detroit, so I can't say I don't love Ben Johnson. All right, so we'll just keep that secret between us and your millions of listeners.
There you go. Well, listen, it's so great to talk to you, and I love your energy, and I'd love to have you back on the show as we go forward. I've been talking to folks who are running for office in Michigan. You got Mallory McMorrow that's running for senator. There's a lot. Listen, this as a sports person. And a leader with your sheriff's county. Momentum's important, but having a bench is also important. That keeps the momentum going. Yeah. When the players who are on the field or on the court or whatever get tired, the bench is what keeps that team moving forward and that organization going forward. And as we wrap up, and I know we got just a little bit of time, we know the bench is strong. Let's talk about the bench and then let people know how they can find you. Sheriff Swanson, as we wrap up. Go for it.
Well, I think you'll notice that I have two other candidates that are running for governor that I didn't trash.
There you go.
Because they're not opponents to me. They're options. And so the first thing is I'm a Democratic leader with the Secretary of State and the Lieutenant Governor who I work with, I know personally, and we cannot just keep eating our own and thinking that we can come out of this unscathed. So I'm not cut like that. It's not my style. That's the first thing. Number two, a deep bench is for the people, not for us. And I, too, am a voter. I'm a constituent. So I think to your listeners right now, remember this, that there is hope. And to find people who can deliver, not by the words they say, but the actions that they've done, not by literature, but by their past. Those checks that they've done when no one's looking. When your cup gets bumped, what comes out is what you've been when no one is around. Those are the people I'm looking for. And I don't care where they come from. If they rise to executive leadership, I know they're going to do a great job because they've got a history of doing it. And I know that there's a guy in Flint, Michigan who's doing it, and you're talking to him. So I won't let you down, Richard. I promise you. I'm going to learn. And I'd love to, find out from your listeners, just like they send you messages. What can Swanson do better and different that they've been looking for?
Absolutely.
That's called SwansonFromMichigan.com.
Say that one more time. I interrupted you. Sorry about that.
Swanson, I'll give you two references. SwansonFromMichigan.com if you want to be part of this movement, all right? But Google, if you want to be encouraged and inspired, you want to watch a TEDx talk or you want to see things that are going to blow your mind, follow the leadership, follow the social media, and you will be fed.
Absolutely.
You will be fed. You know?
Sheriff Chris Swanson from Genesee County, Michigan, running for governor in the great state of Michigan. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will have you back so we can chat some more. Sound good?
You got it. Sounds good, brother. Be safe, and thank you to everybody out there. Do something nice for somebody. No strings attached today.
There you go. Take a quick break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth.
And you're right where you need to be.
This is Choose Views.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. Listen, if you were not feeling energized, listening to Sheriff Chris Swanson should have got you kind of rolling, feeling good this morning, even as cold as it is here in Chicago and the upper Midwest. He's running for governor in Michigan, along with others. And I like what he said. We're not eating our own, and he is not going to pick on and go after the people that are, Lieutenant Governor currently, Garland Gilchrist, and Attorney General. That to me, that takes the courage and discipline to do that. To say I'm going to run on how good I am, not have to denigrate particularly somebody on my own team. Because ultimately, we still got to live together as progressive liberal Democrats. So I appreciate him being willing to say that, and we'll look forward to having him back. Sorry about the background noise. I gotta bring on our next guest and our friend and man, I'm just feeling for you. The host and creator of Endless Urgency, political strategist, man about town, and as I always say, someone that's got a lot to say about a lot of things. None other than Mike Nellis. Good morning, Mike, and welcome to Choose Views. Hey there.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to start right off by asking you, man. I'm not putting your business in the street because you've already put it out there, but Mike was stricken with a little bit of health the last few days, man. How are you feeling? Literally, I mean, I know you and I communicated offline, but are you feeling better now?
Yeah, for those that don't know, I got this norovirus that's going around. I would not wish it on my worst enemy, of which I have many. So it's probably the most sick I've been since COVID. I was basically non-functional for like 2 days, and I was in Miami for a work thing too. So I was trapped in a hotel room, which, you know, I've got a 6-year-old, so usually I would say that's a good thing, but not in this case.
Was he rolling with you, or was he back home?
No, he was back home, so
Okay.
I was alone.
That's good.
But it was a bit of a nightmare. I'm functional now, certainly well enough to do your show, Richard, but I'm still dealing with a lot of like stomach issues and stuff like that. It's not great. Try to avoid this if you can.
Well, you said that. In case you guys didn't catch it, if you don't follow Mike, you should be following him. Let's start with that. But secondly, you did post that immediately, so I wanted to applaud you for letting folks know, listen, be careful, be safe, and be mindful of where you are with your health. So thank you for putting that out there, because I immediately jumped on it when I saw that you were down, brother. So I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better.
That,
absolutely. Mike, Donald Trump broke the economy, and now it's breaking him. That's the headline to Mike's one of Mike's latest posts on Substack. So let's start there. Let's start with that, because it's the elephant in the room. But to your point, a lot of people don't want to really talk about that and how we got here. So walk us through what you were saying in your article on Substack.
Yeah, so let's take a step back, because the economy was not terrible, but it wasn't in great shape under Joe Biden towards the end of his term. People were frustrated about inflation, but inflation was contained and coming down. And I think they had maybe not done as much work as they could have done it as quickly as possible or provide relief to people, which is why they turned back to Trump. But Trump has come in, and his first act was basically to dump gasoline on an existing dumpster fire. And so he comes in with these tariffs. He comes in with basically no action on AI, which is killing the job market right now. And then what happens? Job market starts to fall apart. Nobody can find work, or at least a lot of people can't seem to find work, particularly young people who need entry-level jobs. It feels like basically everything is more expensive, and people are feeling that right now. And keep in mind, Donald Trump promised during the campaign everywhere he could that when he took office, grocery prices and everything else would go down, not up, and everything is up, not down. So, and it's a hell of a thing for a politician to promise for prices to go down, which they very rarely do. And what's very clear to me is he has no plan, and so instead of acknowledging that and addressing it, he's given speeches in front of casinos in Pennsylvania talking about how affordability is a hoax. And I have to imagine, if you're a Republican member of Congress on the ballot next year, you're watching that speech going, I can't get in front of this, because they've created a cult of personality for this man in the Republican Party that doesn't allow them to run against him, because they'll lose their primaries, or Republican voters won't show up, or he'll post a Truth Social post that causes them problems. So they're in a really tough situation right now. And more importantly than the politics of it for a second is 80% of Americans are struggling right now. They can't afford to put food on the table, buy a house, retire with dignity, even take a vacation, or even, and I was thinking about this weekend, is the value of being able to go do other things that are fun, that make life meaningful. Because, like, yes, we want to put food on the table, we want to take care of our families, but wouldn't you like taking a ball game every now and again, go to a basketball game, go to a bowl game if you could afford it? And you can't afford that stuff. Like,
go to the zoo. Go to the zoo.
Honestly, have you seen Bulls tickets? Forever, I was going to try to take my son to a Bulls game, and, like, they're crazy expensive. And so it's like everything feels more expensive and everything feels crappier at the same time. And so I think people are really frustrated with the state of the country right now. You turn on the TV, you get the President of the United States, who's building himself a ballroom and accepting $400 million jets and making the Oval Office look like a bad gold-plated Atlantic City casino. And he's over there telling you how great your life is. And I don't blame the American people for being upset. I really don't. I mean, I think they have every right to be. So it's breaking him. Like, he broke it, and now it's breaking him.
It's a great title. When I read it, I thought that's so spot on and wonderfully written. So thank you for that, Mike. Okay, so why you said this in the article, and you said it again just now. There's no plan, but why do you think? It's sort of a two-part question. Why do you believe, like me, that he doesn't have a plan? One, and then secondly, why do you believe that the GOP at large isn't pushing him to have a plan? Because it's obvious. These folks that are on the Republican, that are part of the House and the Senate, have to go home and hear from people, look, this is tough, this is hard, this is awful. And why are they really not pushing him to come up with the plan? So it's two questions. Why does he not have one, in your observation? And two, why is his own party not pushing him to create some solutions? Does that make sense?
It does. He doesn't have a plan to do anything that's going to improve people's lives because the Republican Party that he's built is a party that is exclusively of grievance. Everything that he does is either about righting some wrong in his life in the past, somebody who's wronged him. So that's what going after Comey is. It's going after Tish James is. That's what going after Jimmy Kimmel is, because he doesn't think Jimmy Kimmel's very funny. Might be the one thing Donald Trump and I agree with. I've actually never watched an episode of Jimmy Kimmel except for the one where he got him kicked off the air and he came back. And so Donald Trump doesn't sit down and go, what are people struggling with? Why was I elected? What should I try to get done? Like, he built this reputation on, I'm a deal maker and I can solve problems and I can get things done. And it's like, well, when do we get those things done? Because we've had a million executive orders that haven't really accomplished anything to improve your life. And instead, he's just completely in denial of it, and he's spending more time figuring out how to attack Harvard because his kids couldn't get into Harvard. Like, it's just a lot of stuff like that. So he abuses the power of the presidency to enrich himself, to steal money from American taxpayers, put it into his pockets. This weekend, he was talking about how we allegedly collected $18 trillion in tariff revenue, which isn't true. But also, if it was true, where's the hell is it? Would be my question. Right. And so that's number one. He's too busy mad about the world. This guy's president of the United States. He acts like he's been aggrieved at every turn of his life. It's unbelievable to me. He's also a billionaire, I might add, many times over now thanks to the presidency. And so then the second thing is why Republicans don't push him is like, well, one, as he's reshaped the Republican Party in his image, he's pushed out anybody who will stand up to him. Every single Republican that stood up to him, from Don Bacon and Mitt Romney, who are more moderate and in the center, all the way to Marjorie Taylor Greene, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is not an ally, may I remind you.
Yep.
But she's out there going, hey, the economy's bad. Hey, maybe Republicans should come up with a health care plan for the first time in 2 decades. And she gets ostracized by her party for what is pretty common sense criticism of her party right now. And she gets run out. Marjorie Taylor Greene said that in her 10 years of politics, where she's faced, I think she said something like rapid attacks from the left, I've never had to get personal security for myself. The minute I say something about Donald Trump, I have to get personal security. So he has run everybody who will stand up to him out of the Republican Party. He's also run voters out of the party, too. The Republican Party, they love to talk about their registration numbers, but there are more independents today than ever before. So now Republican primaries are basically exclusively decided by MAGA primary movement voters. And if you speak out against him, you're going to lose your primary. So if you're a Republican member of Congress, you want to keep your job. And again, I don't think it should work this way. I think you should be willing to stand up to the president and be willing to lose. But they're not. And so they're afraid. And there's a fair number of true believers in there, too. And the number of, Republican members of Congress, Republican talking heads that I've debated on Fox News and Newsmax and all these other places, they keep going, well, just wait. In a couple of weeks, it's going to be amazing. The economy's great. And I'm like, yeah, we're always like 3 months away from greatness under this president. That's the same thing they said in January. It's the same thing they said in the middle of the summer. It's the same thing they say last week. We're always a couple weeks away from greatness. How many pieces of legislation have they passed? What have they actually done that's going to improve your life? The Republican budget is a disaster. It's the worst piece of legislation I think I've ever seen written. And I'll add one final point before I hand it back to you. Here's how bad that bill is. They could have used it as an opportunity to do anything about inflation, housing, anything that actually improves your life. They didn't. What they did do was they made tax cuts for very, very, very wealthy, the 1% of the 1%, absolutely permanent. And they made the little bit of tax relief they gave working people, like no tax on tips, which, by the way, is only for cash tips,
right,
which people are getting fewer and fewer cash tips. They're doing more digital tips
right,
now.
Thank you. Sorry.
Right. Yes, and it's temporary. They made that temporary. That tells you everything you need to know about this administration. Permanent tax cuts for the wealthy, temporary tax cuts for everybody else.
They could, Mike, thanks for that. And they could have run the tables. Let me do some business. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with political strategist and host, creator of Endless Urgency podcast. Mike, they could have run the tables, meaning the Republicans, in terms of creating a better bill that actually addressed the needs that they said that they were going to address, that they all ran on, not just Trump. If they had just said, let's come up with the bill that would just shock the hell out of the Democrats and look at it like this. You as a strategist and me as one that observes this in a very common sense way. They could have gone and said, you know what, listen, forget all of our donors, not literally, but let's create a bill that will force the Democrats to have to agree with it because they're items that would be beneficial to all the country. Then the Democrats would have to come to the table and go, well, we're against that, but in fact, it's stuff that's good for the country. They didn't do that. The Republicans had all the numbers, they had all their hands on the levers of all pieces of power and so many state legislatures. And they chose, in my observation, not to do that. And if they had, the midterms would be, they would be cleaning up in the midterms and these special elections. So the Republicans' lack of ability to govern shows that they aren't really capable of getting anything done. Be damned what Donald Trump has to say. The GOP as a party right now is showing that they can't get anything done either.
Yeah, they control every branch of government right now, and the only meaningful thing that they've done is name post offices. That's about it. And even for a normal Congress, which isn't exactly productive in my 20 years of doing this, this has got to be the least productive Congress in history. It's got to be the worst Speaker of the House we've ever had in Mike Johnson. On the budget for a second, they could have, I think, put Democrats in an awkward position by saying, hey, we're putting this omnibus bill together. And yes, we're going to do what Republicans always do, which is that they're going to cut taxes for extraordinarily wealthy people. They're going to do that. That's just that comes with the territory of them winning an election. I know that now in my life. But they could have at least left some crumbs for regular people. And they could have at least understood why they won. The problem is they started to believe their own BS after the election, which is Trump started arguing, I won in the biggest mandate in the history of America, and I won because of trans kids, and I won because of illegal immigrants, and I won because blah, blah, blah. And, don't get me wrong, those are real discussions that have to happen, but they won because of the economy. They won because people cannot afford to pay their bills, that there are two generations of Americans who are giving up on home ownership right now because they don't believe that they're ever going to be able to have enough money to buy a house because housing prices are so expensive and interest rates are so high. They've chosen to do nothing. And then, and I'm going to keep bringing this up because I think it's going to be one of the bigger issues next year and in the coming years, which is AI destroying the job market. And by the way, they're afraid to release the job figures in the federal government right now, and that's how bad they are. And it's because AI is killing jobs. And look, I'm not an anti-AI person. I think you generally never win a fight with technology, so you've got to find a way to embrace it. But if AI is going to be so disruptive, we have to have proper regulation and support for people who are going to lose their jobs, give them opportunities to move into the next industry. What is the Republican Party doing? They're either outright in denial of it, or Donald Trump has repeatedly tried to pass legislation that would block individual American states from regulating AI, because what they're afraid is going to happen is that the state of California will pass tough AI regulations, which will then force all AI companies to adopt that all across the country. And so they want to stop that. Donald Trump, they tried to sneak that into the Republican budget 2 or 3 times, and Trump, I believe either last week or the week before, passed it as an executive action, which will absolutely be thrown out, 100%. Yep. Most of his executive actions are. But that's what they're trying to do. So they're trying to stymie any bit of progress towards making sure that AI doesn't kill the economy. And there's, again, not doing anything to help improve your life. There's just no solution, no acknowledgement that people are struggling. And that's why they're getting throttled in every election that happens this year.
Let's talk about that for a second. And then I'm going to come back and ask you another question, something you just mentioned. Miami, I think a lot of people thought that, how do I want to put this, Mike? When I looked at a lot of the data, a lot of people thought it wouldn't happen. It did. And now a lot of people are trying to downplay it and saying, well, it's just Miami. It's not that big of a deal. But talk about it from your perspective as a strategist, but just how you and I talk when we're not, on the air without the cursing, about why the Miami mayor's race is a big deal.
Without cursing. Such a tough ass for me.
No, I got you, man. I gotta always. You and I always have to poke each other when it comes to that because we got some salty A mouths. But anyhow, Mike, sorry.
I appreciate it. Miami elected a Democratic mayor for the first time in 30 years. That is crazy. And a lot of people thought it wouldn't happen. And I'm going to pivot to another race that a lot of people thought wouldn't happen is, Jean Stothard, who was the mayor of Omaha, Nebraska. She was the longest-serving mayor in the country. Omaha, Nebraska is my hometown. I worked against her in her first race. I couldn't have disliked a human being more when I was 18 years old. And, I'm sure she's probably a pleasant human being in her spare time. But at 18, she was the face of the Republican Party for me. And, but there was this idea that you couldn't beat her. It was like she was unbeatable. People loved her. I remember talking to my dad. My dad still lives in Nebraska, and he was like, Jean Stother's amazing. She's going to win in a landslide. You know what? She lost by double digits. That's how upset people are with anybody who puts an R next to their name right now. And so I think if you're any serious Republican strategist, politician, operative, talking head, you have to look at these numbers and go, oh, my God, we're in trouble. And by the way, the chair of the RNC this week got caught on a hot tape being like, we're in trouble right now, is that we are on pace to have an historically bad midterms if we don't turn this around in some way. And what I don't see is any meaningful action. Like the White House over the last 2 weeks has been, we're going to put Donald Trump on the road and we're going to start talking about affordability seriously. And I don't know what talking points they put in front of him, but he can't stay on it to the point where he keeps saying affordability is a hoax. And then it just puts every Republican politician in a bind where it's, do you agree with the president that affordability is a Democratic hoax? Do you have a plan for that? What plan are you going to do and enact? And they just don't have anything. And so that's why you see places that are more conservative, like the city of Miami. And Miami's been tough for Democrats because a lot of different constituencies in there, particularly the Cuban vote, have turned against the Democratic Party. Now people are turning back because their pocketbooks are getting crushed. I think the one thing we have to be careful about, though, is Democrats cannot assume that we are back or that we are popular or that we have solved all the issues that you and I have talked about on this show over the last year, because we haven't. There's still generational issues. There's still campaign issues. We still need better plans and policies to enact for people. We have to have a better understanding of how to use power to deliver for people. But you only have two options in American politics. So when one party is deeply letting you down, it gives the other party a chance to swing back. That's why there's so much swinging back and forth. I've argued basically in my career in the 20 years, almost every election I've worked has been a change election where people have just been oscillating wildly back and forth between political parties because the economy since the Great Recession, since the Wall Street crisis in 2008, has been fundamentally broken for way too many people. So it's a tremendous opportunity for the Democratic Party to get back into power and show people that we can deliver for them. But we have to be prepared for that, and we have to run good candidates that understand how to talk to people and can acknowledge the mistakes that we've made in the past.
One of the things that I'm seeing, and thanks for addressing that, one of the things that I'm seeing is the last two sentences in terms of good candidates that can get it done, is that is probably the biggest thing that we're noticing, is that the candidates are people that have a history of getting things done and are leaning into the phrase that you've used and so many others have used, going to where the people are and truly listening to what they're saying the solutions can and or should be. And that is allowing people to say, okay, I can trust that person that he or she is going to be the right candidate in this moment. And so I'm sensing that based on who's been elected in some of these off-year elections or special elections and all, that those candidates are listening. So I'm fingers crossed that that's going to continue. But I do agree with you 1,000%. We've had some big wins, and we've had some, quote, smaller wins if we just look at it from a geographical standpoint. But we cannot, if anything, like my previous guest, Sheriff Swanson said, it's about momentum. It's about repeating that. And it's about not getting comfortable, because getting comfortable right now will be the kiss of death. So I'm hoping that stays the same.
I think that's right. I'll add something to it, too, because there's this big debate in the party right now about Jasmine Crockett running for Senate, which is absolutely her prerogative in the state of Texas. You know, I sort of agree with people that I don't think she would be the strongest general election candidate, but I also don't know what general election voters in Texas are necessarily going to want a year from now, so I'll say that. But I'll add here that, like, the one bit of pause that she gave me was in an interview last week. I think it was with CNN after she launched, and she got asked a question from, I believe it was Lauren Coates on CNN. Yep. And Lauren was like, you know, what are you going to do to win over Trump voters to flip this state? And Jasmine Crockett said, I don't need to win over Trump voters to win the state of Texas because there's so many people that don't vote. And that's the type of thinking that I think Democrats cannot give into, because you will absolutely have to win over Trump voters to win in a place that Kamala Harris didn't a year ago. Just the absolute fundamental reality. And if you look at all the swings that we've seen, they've exclusively been with young people who turned out in droves, who were mad about the economy last year with Joe Biden, who came back to us. They were other constituencies, black and brown voters, who decided to pull the lever the other way. I think people don't still talk enough about the fact that we lost a lot of young to middle-aged black and brown voters, male voters. There were a lot of white men who moved back. So, like, we have to win these people back who took a risk on Donald Trump again, and we're going to have to go talk to them. And again, as far as, like, Crockett versus Tallarico, one of them will prove to be the right candidate, and the voters of Texas will decide that. But both of them are going to need to engage with those people if they want to win in the state of Texas, which is a Republican plus 14 state. Like, it is a hard place to win. Right now, the swings that we've seen have been an average of, like, 13 points. So you need a little bit of extra juice to flip something like that. You just can't take those voters for granted. And I'll also say, in an environment where people are this frustrated with the economy, they are open to anything right now. That's how you get like a Zoran Mondani gets elected in New York City. People will go, oh, New York would never elect a Democratic Socialist. Well, if it's the right guy in the right moment at a right time, like people are going to listen to that. Same with Donald Trump. Yeah. A quality economy doesn't elect Donald Trump twice. It just doesn't.
One of the things that, going back to the conversation, and we'll have to talk about this again because I want to, as I'm trying to get more and more content on it. I want anybody to say I don't need. Now, numerically, she may not need the Trump voters to win. Numerically, she may not. But I think from an optic standpoint, one of the things that you don't do is you say who you don't need to win. And, I just think that if you're trying to win for everybody, then you say, I'm trying to win for everybody. And then you figure out behind the scenes how you actually go about implementing that. But, that's a conversation that you and I'll delve into at another time because we do need to talk about that. What I don't want to see, though, is going back to what Sheriff Swanson said is I don't want to see us eating our own in this situation in Texas because that'll be just another wash, rinse, and repeat situation that cannot happen. So I appreciate both of them stepping up to say that they aren't going to be going after each other. Let's go after the Republican Party. Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me ask you this last question. Is there any truth to or reality to this 20 or so Republicans that are looking at leaving on the GOP side from the House of Representatives? Is that real or is that just BS?
I think there's probably a lot of people who are thinking about it, but I don't know if any of them actually pull the trigger on that. I do think that there's an extraordinary amount of people who are frustrated with Mike Johnson, and apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene this week is thinking about filing a petition to remove him from power and trying to see if she has enough votes, which, by the way, she only needs 2 other people to agree to do that, so it's not a large majority that he has. I'm skeptical that anybody's going to resign, but I'll be honest with you, I was skeptical that Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to resign, and she's yeeting her way out of Congress in 3 weeks. So yeah. I don't know. I'm sort of in a place where, like, I think I can imagine Congress, even for a Republican member of Congress right now, being so hostile and not worth your time that there's a lot of people that are like, I'm not going to do this. Like, I've got a family, I've got, business endeavors. Like, I'm going to go do that. I can totally understand that. Having been in an environment like that before and having to quit a job, like, I get it. So I will say, though, I think it's wrong to run for office and promise to serve for 2 years and not serve that term. Yep. I just think that's wrong, and that's where I disagree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on that one issue and basically every other.
Mike Nellis, y'all, Endless Urgency. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning, man. Be well. Feel better. Big hug to you, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Bye
Appreciate you.
All right, man. Listen, you guys, we appreciate you as always. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And as I always say, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.